Alright team, let's make some crab cakes. I am ready to go here. I have a bowl with my crab. My crab is defrosted. I squeezed it really good and took all the water out of it, and then I went through it and make sure that I had no shells. But nothing would ruin the experience of eating a crab cake more than having a piece of shell in there. Okay. For the rest of our ingredients, I have some Dijon mustard. I have some Tabasco, and then on my tray I have my horseradish, my Worcestershire sauce. I have my red pepper cut Bernois. I actually cut red onion instead of shallot Bernois because I had some leftover parsley, so I cut that too. And then I have my egg yolk with my mayonnaise. Okay, on the other side I have my breadcrumbs, and then right behind me I have my egg white that I've beaten, and it's a little foamy. It's not quite meringue, it's loosened up and it's a little foamy to make it nice and light, because we have so many wet things going in here. We want to line up the mixture. Okay, so there's this is a three-part video. The first part, we're going to put the mixture together, and I'm going to show you whereabouts the mix needs to be, and then I'm going to show you how to put how to actually make one portion of crab cake, and then the last part we'll cook some crab cakes and plate them up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of Dijon mustard in here, and there we go, maybe a tablespoon and a half, nothing too fancy. If you don't like mustard, put a little bit less in there, it doesn't matter, it's just a flavoring. Now, here's the glue. We have mayonnaise and an egg yolk, right? So these guys are gonna go in there, and these you actually need in there. I think our goal today is gonna be not to put too much breadcrumb in here, and that's always should be your goal anytime that you're making a crab cake. It's not to put too much breadcrumb. You want it to taste the crab. And I'm gonna put a little bit of this horseradish in here. You guys got quite a bit of horseradish, and that's extra hot horseradish, so take it easy on that. And then a couple of drops of Worcestershire. That will bring the umami flavor up. Then I have a couple of dashes of Tabasco. And then I'm gonna bring in my pepper and onion and parsley. Sometimes if you weren't very successful at cutting your stuff super tiny, if you sweat it a little bit and soften it up, it might help with the texture of the crab cake. If you cut it super tiny, it will cook fast enough that it won't be in there and affect your final dish. And then with this, I'm gonna mix it really good. Okay, and it should start getting kind of wet, almost like when you're making a tuna salad. And just make sure that you don't leave clumps of mayonnaise anywhere or clumps of egg anywhere. And the same with the shallot and the pepper. You want the mixture to be well mixed throughout. Okay. And once you finish mixing that part, it should look something like this, where you have let's see if I can just grab a little bit there, where you have a little bit of everything. Okay, it should be fairly wet. And then we're gonna take our egg white that I have right here and just mixing it a little bit more, and I'm gonna bring this guy in here. And now I'm very careful because I want to keep those bubbles in there. So I'm gonna use, although I'm gonna use my spoon, I'm going to kind of fold it into that mixture, okay? And it should make your mixture really fluffy. And all I'm doing is bringing it up and letting it fall, okay? It should make your mixture nice and fluffy. Now we can take our panko breadcrumbs and we're gonna add some in here. I'm gonna go with like a quarter of this to start, so about a half cup. and then we're gonna go from there, okay? And I'm gonna use my hands, and I'm just kind of, I'm bringing it up and letting it fall, and I'm trying not to break those bubbles too much, okay? But the goal is that the crab cake should be somewhat fragile at the beginning, just because you want it to be nice and light. If you start manipulating it a little too much, you'll have some really tough crab cakes, okay? And that's never good, okay? Now at this point, all we have to do is let them sit for a minute without pressing them, and all we're doing is letting that bread pick up some of that moisture. And once that moisture is picked up, we can make our patties, okay? So we're gonna let this sit for about 5 to 8 minutes, and then we'll continue on with making the crab cakes. All right, guys, it's been about 8 to 10 minutes. I let this sit. There's a couple of things that we need to make sure that happen. Number one, we have to season it, right? And does it taste good? Like that's usually our first goal here. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this, tasting spoon right here, and just taste it. I know it has a little bit of raw egg. It's not gonna kill you. Just try a little tiny bit and make sure to see where the seasoning is, and then you'll know how much salt and pepper you need. Okay. So it needs some salt, but it doesn't need a lot. Usually when you're working with seafood, it's gonna require less salt than other proteins, right? So we'll mix this, try to be gentle. And we just wanna make sure that it's tasting good. Just seasoning on the top, it's not gonna do much for them, right? So we just wanna make sure that we're in the right place. All right, that tastes much better, okay? So that was the number one thing, is do they taste good? This is like when we make sausage. You have to make sure they taste good before you form them, or you're not gonna be able to have a good product, okay? Number two, we know if we have enough breadcrumb in there, if it holds its shape. So make sure you stick a little bit to make sure I don't squish it all. And I squish it, and if it gives the shape of my fingers like this guy does, then we're good to go. Okay, we have enough. Now, right next to me I have a tray that I laid out most of the breadcrumbs that I had, right? I left a little bit here behind for the second part, which is pouring some on the top. Okay, so this breadcrumbs are the part that is gonna make them crunchy in the outside, right? So the goal is to take a portion. If you have a scooper, you can do a scooper. If you don't, it's no big deal. Just make some and know that I'm not squishing them. I'm just making kind of like a ball. I'm placing it on the breadcrumbs, okay? And you're gonna go like that and shape all the mixture into crab cakes that are similar in size. Do they have to be perfect? If we were at a restaurant, we would be weighing them. And then we know that we're giving the same portion to everyone, right? And we're saving, and we're not giving away crab, but we're actually creating profit, right? That will be how we'll look at this. Okay, so I have let me turn this around. I have these two right here, which is usually, so your tray should be like full of them, right? I'm gonna squish them down a little bit, but not too much. I'm just gonna be gentle with them. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some of this other breadcrumbs on top, and that way I don't have to keep mixing them up right here in the tray. And then I'm just gonna pick one up, breadcrumbs and all, and I'm gonna use my fingers like so to mold the sides, and like so to get bottom and top. And I'm just gonna work my way around it. I'm gonna press it, but just enough to keep it together. I'm not pressing it in a way that I want to squeeze all the juice out of them and press them so they're not light, right? And you should have a pretty uniform shape by doing this, like so and like so. And then your thumb and these two fingers That's shaping the bottom and the top, and then in between your thumb and your index there is giving it the shape all the way around them. Okay, and you should get a crab cake that is fairly tall and it has a nice shape. Okay, look at this guy. Alright, and go ahead and continue doing all of them until you have them all ready to go. But the goal is to be gentle, and it's okay to have to go over them 3 or 4 times versus trying to hurry up and squishing them, because it'll be a world of difference on how tasty they actually are. Okay, you want them to keep together, but when your guests put a fork in there, you want them to break in half. All right, so we're just gonna continue doing this, and I'm just rotating it, rotating it, rotating it. Okay, it should be nice and tall, and I would say these are about 3 ounces. That's what this crab cake is. So this is kind of a 2 crab cakes to make a nice appetizer, right? We're not making something for an entree. This is a nice app right here. All right, so shape them all and keep doing it with the breadcrumbs. If you, for some reason, feel like you're running out of breadcrumbs, just stop for a second and spread the breadcrumbs on your tray out, and then if you have just half left, just pick the breadcrumbs up and pour them over them, and that should help you finish shaping all your crab. All right, so our crab cakes are already nicely shaped. We're ready to go. I have a pan here, and I have it at medium heat, almost medium heat. I would say, not medium high, not quite yet. I'm pouring a little bit of olive oil in there, and I'm also putting a little bit of clarified butter. Make sure it's clarified so it doesn't burn, because it'll change the color that your crab cakes turn out. Okay, and we want a good amount of fat for this. We're not necessarily sauteing these. We're pan frying them. So let's follow the pan frying techniques that we have. Right, we want to cover the bottom of the pan fairly well. And I have fish spatula. You guys have a different shaped fish spatula. This is just an offset, but they both work. Okay? And now the goal is pick up your crab cakes with your fish spatula so you're not misshaping them. And we're just gently going to put them in here. And the goal here is to leave them alone and not move them. You can move the pan, but don't move the crab cakes, okay? So like, I can tilt the pan a little bit and with a spoon, grab a little bit of the fat, right? And pour some of the fat on top so I can start cooking them. But even that, sometimes it makes the crab cakes not very happy, okay? So we're basically gonna cook them here, medium, low heat. If you see that they're getting brown really quickly, turn down the heat. We don't need it to get brown fairly quickly. But the crab cakes don't take a long time. This is we're gonna be almost ready to flip here. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Nice and golden on one side. And I turned down the heat, so on the second side they're gonna cook for much longer than they cook on the first side, right? And everything here is cooked. We're basically just wanting to cook the eggs that we put in there, right? But the meat is cooked, and your veggies don't need a certain amount of temperature. All we want is the eggs to cook all the way through. Okay. If you like, I like that the top and the bottom are brown and the side is not. If you like that if you like all your sides to get really nice and brown, you can move your crab cakes towards the front of your pan and tilt it so they're deeper in fat, and that will help you make that happen. Okay, and that'll make a happier, crunchier crab cake. Okay, I like the mix of textures of having a crab cake that is really nice and seared on both sides, and then that is not so seared on the sides, so it stays nice and soft. We're almost ready here. All right, so this crab cakes are almost ready. I'm going to move these so I can not have to move the camera. I'm gonna move this to the side, and then we're gonna get ready for plating. Okay, I got a little bit of salt and pepper right here. I got my towel. So while the crab cakes get finished, this is we used to plate crab cakes at a restaurant I worked at right on a satay pan. This is just a small satay pan. And I have some aioli, and I have some mixed greens, and I have, this is a onion, pepper, and olive salad that I made the other day. So it's roasted peppers, roasted onion, olives, garlic, olive oil, and a little bit of herbs. Okay, we're gonna use this as part of our plating. I'm gonna take my greens, and I'm going to dress them with a little tiny bit of olive oil, and some salt, and some pepper. I'm just gonna toss these in here real quick. And they're not necessarily the main part of the dish. I just want a little bit of greens as a bed, and they'll help with the butter on the crab cakes. Okay, so I'm just gonna take a little bit of greens and just place them down. Okay, and move that out of the way, and then over those greens that I have on my plate, I'm gonna take my pepper salad. I'm gonna place that there. It should look kind of like a, you guys see that? And then I'm gonna take my crab cakes, which are done. I'm sure you have a towel here, but you can have paper towels and just kind of leave it on your spatula and place it there so it's not dripping all over the place. I want you to see how nice and golden these crab cakes are. And I'm gonna take my crab cakes and place them right here. Then I'll take a little bit of my aioli and put that right in between them. If you have some herbs and you want to put some herbs in there, you surely can. We can grab a little bit more of the salad and put it there as well. Stop sliding. And put that right there. And know that these crab cakes are really fragile, so when you're plating something like this, if you start moving them around a little too much, it'll give you a hard time. Okay, you guys see that? Just gonna turn it over. There we go. Crab cakes with aioli and a roasted pepper salad. If you're gonna make them all at the same time and you want to serve them in a satay pan, if you have a big one, you can just put salad in the middle with your sauce, and then put your sauce all the way around it, and then put your crab cakes on top of the sauce. Anytime that you have something crispy, you always want to have either just a little bit of your item covering sauce and the rest dripping on the plate, or put the sauce underneath and then have all the crispy items on the top so that they don't get soggy fairly quickly. All right.